I'm here with Mark Michel, the owner of Nixon, the Dehler 30, which we've looked at today. We had the most beautiful sail today. But there's a story behind this brand new boat, behind the name. We'll get onto that. But also how Mark, who is a very experienced sailor, how he got to choosing this boat. There was actually a short list of 7. Tell us about how you chose the boat.
Yeah, well, it was, a question of what really hit the sweet spot for me. And given that we wanted a boat that was offshore capable and focused on short handing, that actually reduced the list quite a bit. And, I was also particularly concerned about displacement because at the end of the day, lightness equates with speed. So when you look at a lot of the boats around in this size that are production boats, a lot of them are generally around 1,000 kilos heavier. The Dehler just hits a really nice sweet spot in terms of technology, design, and it's a boat where there's virtually no extras. It almost gives you the most technology of any boat that I've come across out of the box. And aside from that, there was an enormous amount of thought that went into the development and refinement of the boat. So what we've found is that we've unpacked this boat when it arrived, we've put it together and we've gone sailing, and it's just all there.
It's all working, yeah.
So a very high standard of design, and I wanted a boat that represented the 21st century. And we know where the IMOCA 60s have gone, and the Volvo 65s, and in many respects this is like a mini IMOCA or Volvo 65.
Yeah, it was my daughter's commentary. I was doing my homework a couple of nights ago, Googling the boat, and there's a photograph of it leaping out of a wave, and my daughter said, "That's a mini Volvo boat." And sure enough, it's got a lot of those capabilities, and it's got the style about it. I've got this notebook full of superlatives, and the one thing that I noticed, and Mark and I were just discussing how we're both old enough to remember IOR boats, which had a bunch of compromises in their design. But this boat seems to have nailed all of those compromises. It just answers all of those things that were problematic before.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things particularly was looking at the design parameters, sail area, displacement and water length. And this boat, it's not out in any particular corner. And definitely, at least one of the boats I looked at potentially is a much quicker boat. But I didn't necessarily want the quickest boat. I wanted a boat which ticked all the boxes. And one of the things with this boat is when you go down below, because of the fact that it doesn't have any bulkheads.
That's a good thing.
It's got the internal volume of a much larger boat. For short-handed offshore, one of the things I've learned is you need a boat that performs but also looks after the crew, because it's a balance, particularly when you go long distance. And we want to do long distance in this boat. We may take it to Sydney and do a Sydney-Hobart. So A, it's a boat that I'm entirely confident you could take across the Tasman, and then B, take to Hobart, do around North Island, do around New Zealand in it.
You could do that.
Without having to worry about the boat. It's very well built, and yet it looks after you. So you can get a warm, dry bunk, you can cook a hot meal, and you can push it. So and that's what it's about. It's about you being able to drive the boat, and yet the boat will look after you.
I'm just looking at my list of compromises that have been dealt to. This has got a really light rig, but it's a carbon mast. It's not one of those bendy little things. It's got a very wide staying base because it doesn't need the overlapping genoas, although it's got code zeros and asymmetrical spinnakers. It's got the wide spreaders. It's got water ballast, so it can be light when it wants to be, and it can be well ballasted when it wants to be. 2 rudders, so you've always got a rudder in the water. It's just, and here's another one. Most racing boats in the past there was a real compromise with dragging a propeller through the water. So you had to have a folding prop, which was totally ineffective, for pushing the boat or for manoeuvring. Tell us about the propeller system.
Yeah, so obviously most race boats are compromised in terms of having to have a folding or feathering propeller, which means that they don't particularly motor well. So this is a patented design of a stealth drive, which Dehler have licensed for use in this boat, and that allows you to fully retract a three-bladed fixed propeller up into the hull, which seals entirely up into the hull with the T-plate when it's up. And then otherwise you can, before you motor, you drop it down and you'll actually see on the start panel, we've actually had to put a reminder there, is the propeller down.
Yeah, it's a great boat. I mean, there's one thing that was new to me, one of my epiphanies today is usually when you're doing a boat review, you're hanging onto the wheel and, facing the spray and whatever. And here I was able to steer with one finger with my notebook in hand, It's just such a it's a well-mannered boat to sail, eh?
Yeah, that's what we were saying. It's so well-mannered, we need to push it harder until it bites us.
Yeah, that's still to come, yeah.
But that's to come. The rig in this boat, compared to any other sort of boat of this size in the marina, is about 1 metre further back in the boat.
Yeah.
And so that means starting from the end of the prod, that we have the asymmetric, and then we come back a little bit, and then we have the code zero. Yeah. Then we come back to the forestay, which is the jib, the headsail, and then we come inside of that and we have the staysail. So you have the ability, like a Volvo boat or an IMOCA, to run a triple-headed rig.
Yeah. Well, we learned something today because we were doing over 8 knots to windward for a 30-foot boat, but the fastest we went today was with the boat steering itself with autopilot.
And there's nothing like having a proper below decks pilot.
That was good, yeah. Interesting thing about this boat, it's been so well developed in Germany as a one design racing boat, but this is the first one in New Zealand, so it's a kind of one and only at this stage. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, we hope there'll be more.
Yeah.
It's so good to see new boats coming into the New Zealand sailing fleet. We've got a fleet of boats that are from the 80s, from the 90s. So this boat's been designed to be as fast as it possibly can be.
Yeah.
It's got the deep bulb keel, it's got the long prod, it's got the square top main.
Yeah.
Everything about it is to be maximum performance, no compromises.
Yeah.
So it fits the New Zealand market so well in that regard.
Yeah.
Whereas, I think Mark touched on this before, there's nothing we have to do to this boat now to make it any faster. It's as good as it's going to be.
Yeah, no,
it comes with an interior that you can go cruising on. I mean, what else do you want in New Zealand?
The boat is called Nixon, and Mark, tell me the story behind the name of the boat.
Yeah, so Nixon, spelt Niksen, is actually a Dutch philosophy. And if you Google it, there's a huge amount of material, and it's got quite a following around the world. And it's a philosophy of effectively doing nothing with focus. So being quite deliberate about how you do nothing. And it kind of matched sort of the stage of life I'm at, which was coming out of the corporate world and beginning to spend more time just focused on effectively doing nothing compared to the corporate world. So,
but I beg to differ. I reckon there's been an extraordinary amount of focus between you and Logan to choose this boat, and I reckon you guys are going to sail it in a very focused way.
Yeah, look, you're right. Any new boat is a big project, and look, we've spent a huge number of hours, even before the boat arrived, just preparing and planning and figuring. It was, it took quite a bit of focus, but it's paying off now.
I reckon. Well, thank you for giving us the opportunity to test drive it for real, not virtual. And let me tell you, it's great fun. Yeah.
John Eccleston from Boating New Zealand. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more of these videos, please subscribe to our channel.